So today is the feast of St. Thomas Aquinas. St. Thomas is well known for writing the Summa Theologica. If you've ever been to a library, a theological library, and you see the Summa Theologica, which by the way means a summary of theology, and it's about yay long, volume, so many volumes, and it's actually not finished. He died before he actually finished it. Summary. Yeah, that's more than I know about everything, right? That's just a summary of theology. It's a very, very impressive work. Obviously, he was a key figure in formalizing scholastic theology. So he was born in about 1225, 1226 in Lazio, and educated by Benedictines from the age of 5. And they recognized right from this very tender age that he had a very acute mind, a very sharp mind, very, very bright, but also matched that with virtue. So it wasn't just he was smart, because often we can look at saints like Thomas Aquinas and go, well, he's super smart, I'm not, so it doesn't have anything to do with me, really. Very nice that he was smart, but it's got nothing to do with my life. But he matched his brains with virtue. So, very, very virtuous young man. Now, the Dominican order had been founded only a couple of decades beforehand. So the Dominican order, so well established now, was in its infancy. So he heard about them. He was introduced to one of them. And this is what he wanted to do with his life. He wanted to be a Dominican, wanted to enter the order of preachers. His family were less than happy with this. They didn't want him to enter this new order at all. And so his brothers captured him, locked him in a tower at home. You know the way everyone has a tower. Okay, well, his family did. So they locked him in a tower, and until he was there for months. I think maybe even a year. I read this morning. I don't know how long exactly it was, but I remember reading elsewhere. It was quite some time. It wasn't a week. Okay, it was something around a year. They locked him in this tower, and in order to break his resolve, in order to change his mind, in order to maybe seduce him to the ways of the world, they brought in a prostitute and let her into the room and then locked the door behind her. So St. Thomas did what anyone would do, really. Just took a hot poker out of the fire and threatened her with it, So then she came out of the room screaming. So that was it. And this is very interesting and very appropriate also to today's reading, because here we've St. Thomas, who defends purity and chastity in this somewhat violent way. As in, sometimes you have to declare war on a sin without hurting anybody. You have to actually declare war on sin within yourself, and the bat is with you. We have to declare war on it. You have to kind of define the lines of what's within the bounds of virtue and what isn't has to be fought with. I remember a friend of mine saying, look, he was struggling with looking at too much internet. And so he got his laptop and he just horsed it against the wall, right? And I remember one of my other priest brothers saying, you just could have given it to me, but the idea is sometimes you have to do battle with something, right? This is wrong, then just rather than we'll see how it goes. Sure, look, it'll be grand. Sure, we'll pray a bit and see. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to be really, really clear in this battle for virtue, as Saint Thomas Aquinas was. Now he goes on then to Cologne. He studies there. He meets Albert the Great, Alberto Magno, learns a lot from him. Albert the Great he just knew lots about practically everything, about science in general. He was a very, very well-informed man, which inspired St. Thomas even further. And then St. Thomas goes on to teach in Cologne, and then also goes to Paris. While there, he was offered to become an archbishop, which he duly declined, because he said, I don't need any church honours, I don't need any more responsibility, I will teach and I will continue doing what I'm doing. So he wasn't in this for the glory at all. While he was in Cologne, actually, and maybe this is just, I don't know, German sense of humour, but he was quite rotund. He was quite a substantial young man. And so they called him Dumb Ox, because he was kind of quiet as well. He was kind of one of those kind of people who just kind of sits there and takes it all in. What they didn't realize is that he was taking it all in and categorizing it and defining it and sub-defining it, and very so typical of St. Thomas, always defining his terms. He was taking everything in, but from the outside he looked, I was going to say normal, but actually less than normal. in the sense that from the outside he looks like a fool. Like they had no idea this guy's mind was so sharp, so acute. When you read his writings, like, it's incredible, because he starts off, he always defines his terms. So what do we mean by being? What do we mean by nature? What do we mean by substance? What do we mean by accident? All defined, and then you go on and use those terms in your arguments, but you also have to refer back to what the definitions are. So you have to hold all these definitions in your head when you're reading a paragraph. He's just incredible mind. And hugely important to the church over the next couple of centuries, even to our own day, in giving us clarity as regards what we believe. This stuff isn't make-believe, and it's not made up, and it's not up for grabs that we can define everything any way we want. We're trying to understand divine things here, so we have to be careful. If we get them wrong, we can get them very wrong, and then we can end up believing in things that aren't true. So we need to have kind of solid, also reasonable beliefs in the church. And St. Thomas is one of the rocks on which contemporary theology is built. Okay. In contrast to him, we have King David, and it's very interesting how this is written, okay? At the turn of the year, at the time when kings go campaigning, so at the time when kings are supposed to be out there busy, fighting their battles and doing all of that, David was walking on his roof. So at the time when he should have been busy doing something, he was taking it easy. He had, as such, let his own guard down. There he is walking on his roof, and he sees this lady bathing. Now, as we probably have said before here, seeing a pretty person, seeing someone who's, pretty or handsome, isn't a sin. Seeing them bathing, that's a problem, okay? Because it can happen. You walk along to someone handsome or pretty in the room. It happens, right? It's life. We also have to be careful to understand that beauty doesn't imply the seduction. A person can be, like, you see a beautiful child. There's nothing sexual about it. It's just a beautiful child, just a little child, little cute little face on him. Or like maybe your granny, right, has this beautiful kind of somewhat toothless smile, but it's beautiful to be with her. Like, she's just a wonderful person. Okay. But this has nothing to do with sexuality. So beauty and this kind of seductive element that has been introduced to it today, that's not how beauty works in God's mind. God himself is the author of beauty. In creation, when things are beautiful, like this beauty is supposed to remind us of God. The beauty also in people, beauty also in attractive people, is supposed to remind us of God. It's not there. Beauty hasn't been created to tempt us, to seduce us, but to bring us back to God and to remind us of God. So beauty is a good thing. In today's world, though, beauty is seen basically as a way towards seduction and intimacy and all that kind of thing. So we've misguided, we've misunderstood what beauty is for. In fashion in general, like, is fashion there to enhance the manliness of a man and the femininity of a woman, or is it there to make people look seductive? Because they're very different things. Okay, so with that kind of explained more or less, David sees a beautiful person. Now, obviously, if she's bathing, that's when you go, oh, okay, and you look away. He chooses not to. He chooses to get his deck chair and his popcorn and just watch her bathing. It's a really stupid idea, because what do you think is going to happen? Right, so he gets seduced by her. She wasn't. One could argue, was she trying to? Why would you wash on a roof? Get a room, get a curtain, I don't know, but that's just not wise. But that aside, he sends for her, sleeps with her, and gets her pregnant. Realizes that this isn't good because she's married, so then calls for her husband to come home, Uriah. So Uriah, the Hittite, he tries to get him drunk and then send him home to his wife. There you go, now here you are back from the battle, you must be tired, you must have seen awful things out in the battlefield. Go home now to your wife, all is good, right? And he says, how can I go home to my wife when my brothers are out there dying on the battlefield? I shall not. And so he sleeps outside the gates of the palace, but doesn't go home to his wife. David needs Uriah to go home to his wife, to sleep with her, to cover his tracks, because she's now pregnant. So you get how the biology works. Okay. So yeah, he doesn't do it. And so then David sets up to actually have him killed. So he tells his commander, send Uriah into the thick of the fighting and then drop back. And he says it so clearly. Drop back. Then fall back behind him so that he may be struck down and die. Right, so the command is really clear. David isn't being in any way kind of ambiguous about this. Send him to where the fighting is the worst and then drop back that he may die. That was the command. So we see how this whole kind of beauty and seduction thing, how it has absolutely ruined him. How it has now led him to be a murderer, to arrange for someone's murder. To such order, a hit on this man. So something that ordinarily should be just beautiful, a beautiful woman, okay, has now led him into all sorts of sin. Compare that to St. Thomas Aquinas, who, when he's exposed to a prostitute, reacts with clarity and with decisiveness and with a roasting hot poker in order to protect his own purity. So we see two of them are exposed to a temptation and they react completely differently. One goes on to preserve his virtue, one goes on to make a right mess of things altogether. So this is how it works. This is how real life works. We have real life decisions every single day, real life temptations every single day. And they're difficult and they're challenging and they don't stop, nor will they until we're 6 foot under. Temptations and challenges to our virtue will continue every single day. But I think it's always good to see these as opportunities. Rather than us kind of walking through this kind of valley of darkness, waiting for the next booty man to jump out in front of us and scare us, we have opportunities every day to practice virtue. We have opportunities every day to grow. We have opportunities every day to deepen our purity, our humility, our self-control, our piety, whatever it may be. Every single day we're afforded opportunities. And that way we don't go through life afraid and kind of bracing ourselves for the next impact, but we go through ourselves confident that the Lord walks with us and walks and has given us every grace that we need within us to affront every temptation as they come with Him. And so, Lord, we pray for that grace today, to recognize the opportunities today to grow in knowledge and love of You, that we might walk with You every day and become the saints You're calling us to be. Amen.